Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the channel. This is going to be a video series on me basically solid axle swapping and putting this truck on air ride. This is kind of just an introduction of what I'm going to be doing and some of the stuff I've gotten so far. This truck is a 99 crew cab short bed 3500. Old body style. It runs the independent front suspension, which is junk, and it's got a drum 14 bolt in the rear. The previous owner put it on a 3-inch body lift and cranked the piss out of the torsion bars, so it runs like hammered dog crap. I don't know, it rides terrible. And I live on a washboard dirt road, so I want to put this thing on airbags, and I want to do a solid axle swap in the front. So I guess I'll show you what I've gotten done so far. I acquired a 2011 AAM 11.5 from obviously a 2011 2500 truck. It was a gas truck, so it's got 410 gears in it. And currently at this point in time, I have pulled off and cleaned a good bit of the axle. I still got to go through and grind some of the old welds, but originally the leaf spring perch was here, and this bump stop mount was here. So I've got them cut off, and normally this bump stop was about yay big. I don't even remember how big. I want to say 3 inches, but that's what, 1.25 inches. So 1.5 inches, 2 inches, somewhere in there. Total height. So what I ended up doing was I cut these off and cut them down to where basically as low as I could comfortably get them. And I then mounted a 1/4 inch piece of plate to it. This is probably overkill, but it's just some metal I had laying around. So I'm gonna run it. I do plan on pulling a gooseneck trailer, actually installing this gooseneck on the truck as well. So it's not gonna hurt anything. You probably could have got away with 1/8 inch, honestly, just for a mount, but it'll work. I still got to go through and trim up some of this. This is a 6-inch plate by, I think I did 7 inches. And then I cut the holes. Right at 8 inches actually. So then I just cut the holes for the bag. And since this was already on the axle, I'm just gonna keep the 4-inch radius. It kept me from cutting stuff, because all I got here at the house is a cutoff wheel. So the truck frame is 38 inches wide, and I want to be 36 inches wide at the mounting points for the bag. The bags I'm running for the rear is a Firestone W01 358 8031 part number. So 36 inches will put me basically in the center of the frame rail. And coincidentally, normally these perches were here, but I cut them off, and if you move them over like 2 inches, it's where they line up with the shock mount, the inner shock mount on both sides. That puts you right at 36 inches. So that is my plan. Sorry about that, all over the place. That is my plan for the mounts. So it'll look something like that. The reason I cut these down instead of just welding that plate straight to it was, one, for aesthetics, make it look a little nicer and somewhat more professional. But the main reason is I plan to air out this truck when I park, and I want the wheel wells sitting on the tires when I air it out. And right now it's got a 3-inch body lift and 31s. I plan to go to 35s. So that 3-inch body lift's coming down and tires are going up. Currently, as it sits now at ride height at the truck, there is 8 inches from axle to frame. And this bag, completely compressed, is like 6 inches. So that means if I want to stay at that ride height, I'm going to have 2 to 3 inches of what would be up travel. So that's not very much. So what I ended up doing is cutting this and getting as much out of it as I can. So now, from frame, or from axle to the bag, I'm sitting at 8 inches. But before, I was almost at 9.5. So I'm probably still going to have to do some sort of the truck's probably going to sit higher at ride height, but that'll just be like running a 6-inch lift with 35, so it should look fine. According to my calculations that I've done, drop the body lift, raise the tires, completely aired out as it sits, it should be like 1.5 inches above the tire. So that's pretty much what I want. For the rear, I plan to run a parallel 4-link. I got these from Barnes 4-wheel drive. They are 1.25 inch shaft, 2 5/8 wide. They've got grease fittings and lock nut and the bung for the tubing. I plan on running these top and bottom of a parallel 4-link on the axle, and then I plan on running these bushings. These have the same Delrin poly bushings on the end with a grease fitting as well. I got these off of eBay, I want to say for like $7 a piece. So I plan to run these at the axle, this at the frame, and then this 7/8 Johnny joint, or Curry joint, or like Curry joint. It's actually another Barnes 4-wheel drive joint as well. It's what they call their enduro joint, but it's pretty cool. It's rebuildable. This is 7/8, and this is what I'm going to be using as the panhard bar or track bar for the rear. Tubing, I plan on running 2-inch quarter wall for the control arms, and for the panhard bar, I plan on running 1 3/4 250 wall. It's 1/4 inch wall. So that's the plan for the rear. For the front, I actually am planning on using all of these same mounts. I plan on running a radius arm. So if you don't know what a radius arm is, basically the lower mount, so you're going to have a bar from the frame to the axle, and then above that you're going to have from the axle down back to that lower link. And from what I found and read online, a radius arm is going to be the best kind of ride quality for the road, and that's really the only reason I'm doing this, because this thing just rides like a tank, and it's beating me to death. So I want a good ride quality. I got a toy over there, which it's on 16-inch travel coilover, so I don't need anything that flexes crazy. For the front, I do plan on running a Dodge center axle disconnect 2nd gen axle. The off-road community seems to hate those, even though I've never had any sort of problems out of them, out of all the ones that I've run. So since the off-road community hates them, you can find them dirt cheap. There's really nothing wrong with them besides the fact that it's got a 2-piece axle on the passenger side, which can be some sort of a pain sometimes trying to get connected again. But I always run the cable actuator and go away with the vacuum. And then if you want, you could weld the front diff, the spider gears, and then use the cable as like an aux locker, a cheap aux locker. So you got a selectable locker up front, you know, and that's awesome to me because I don't have any money to be buying an aux locker or to be buying Super Duty axles, because people want $800 for one of them, you know. And the last set of Dodge axles I bought front and rear for $400 shipped to my house. So I mean, you can't beat that kind of the price, and it all works the same to me. So that's what I'm gonna run. So for the front, anyways, I plan on running a radius arm, so it'll be cut down, and I'm going to be running the 1.25 inch, those adjustable bushings at the frame, and then the solid bushings down at the lower, and then the upper, a solid bushing as well, and then shooting down to the link using a 7/8 Johnny joint. And I also plan to bag the front as well. The front will be getting the 9-inch single bag, collapsible bag. I forgot what the name of it is. I'll get the part numbers for that later when that time comes. But it fits in the factory Dodge spring mounts. So I'll be able to use all the factory Dodge mounts and bracketry on the axle, which will save me a lot of time and money trying to fabricate stuff up like that for that. I do have a friend of mine, he's building the brackets for the axle and frame for the rear, getting that cut out a 1/4 inch as well. And like I said, it'll be parallel. From what I've learned on building off-road vehicles and everything else, you want the mounting difference between top and bottom control arms 25% of the tire size you intend to run. So if you're running a 40-inch tall tire, you want 10 inches between top and bottom mount. I plan on running a 35, so that puts me at 8 3/4, but I ended up putting it at 9 inches of separation just in case I ever plan on running a bigger tire or anything like that. So I can't remember if I've said I wanted to run a dual triangulated, not a dual, just a single triangulated 4-link in the rear, so I wouldn't have to worry about a panhard bar and everything moving back and forth with a track bar on bags anyways. But the gas tank's going to be in the way, and I want to use that and just kind of make this as simple as possible. So panhard bar it is, I guess. Another cool thing about why I got this axle is because it got 410s in it, and it also comes factory with disc brakes. If I wanted to convert that axle to disc brakes, I'm looking at $400 or $500 or so to do it. So I got that axle for free actually in a trade with a frame that I had, so I'm just going to use that and run, I guess, wheel spacers up front, or wheel adapters for the Dodge, because Dodge is 8 by 6.5 and that newer AAM axle is 8 by 180. So, and actually it's wider than the Dodge, so that'll work out. But yeah, appreciate you watching. If this is something you're interested in, you wanting to do or follow along, by all means, subscribe to the channel, hang out with me, and help me learn. I'm by no means a professional, So if you've got any sort of recommendations or tips, tricks, criticism, by all means, I'm an open ear. I'm just trying to figure this out just like everybody else is. So appreciate you watching, and until next time.